Cowboy State Daily Show with Jay continues on this suddenly saddened Friday, but we are having, I think as Alan K. Simpson would have had it, we are having some levity with it and some sense of humor. 93 years, a long time to be doing it. U.S. Senator John Barrasso jumps in the room. Appreciate having you on, even though the occasion not the greatest. But if you could have half the career of Alan Simpson, you'd probably take that. What a guy.
Truly fiercest champion for Wyoming, beloved figure around not just Wyoming and not just his hometown of Cody, but the entire world. As I'm talking to other senators today here in Washington, some who are still serving, served with Al, and I had a chance to be with him a couple of weeks ago in Cody, about a week and a half ago, and to be there with Ann and with the rest of the family, and it was really a joyous time. And I just talked to Ann this morning, as well as Colin and Bill and Deb, and Ann said it's a full moon in Cody, and Al went to heaven on a moonbeam. So the family, it's an entire family of commitment and service to the people of Wyoming. But Al, from the standpoint of time in the legislature, time in the military, all of the University of Wyoming, the law school, all of it. And you're right, there's some levity involved too, because Al always left you laughing. His speech at the University of Wyoming Law School last year when they dedicated the building, he had the crowd in stitches, and he was up there, 93 years old and holding on to the podium. And somebody said, heard that one before. He said, I don't need new material. I need a new audience, because his material was always great.
Well, he's a guy who always would shoot from the lip. In fact, he's got a book out that says Shooting from the Lip, The Life of Senator Al Simpson. Yeah, that's how he won you. And that's how your first impressions were his sense of humor and the way you just knew talking to him, he was a genuine guy. Truly, when you talk about breaking the mold, this guy broke the mold. He doesn't appear to be ever a politician. He would sometimes denigrate and make fun of politicians. He was an anti-politician. He was not from inside the Beltway. He was an outside the Beltway guy. Is there anyone like that today, Senator Barrasso, that operates the way Al Simpson could?
Well, maybe John Neely Kennedy from Louisiana, if you ever hear him on television, he has some great ones. But Al,
okay.
That book that you just mentioned, what was the subtitle, or the title was Up the Old Gazoo.
Yeah.
and because he gave it not just to politicians, he gave it to the press.
Yeah.
Friends with presidents, danced with queens, traveled the world. He and Ann, incredible commitment of a family, because his son Colin, as you know, was Speaker of the House of the Wyoming Legislature. Al's dad, Millward, was both Wyoming governor as well as United States senator. And so it's an entire committed family of service to the state, all educated at the University of Wyoming and the law school, and continued to give back all the way till the end.
Coming up in that family, I think his life was mapped out for him. It was predestined. Politics was going to be his future. He was going to serve state and country. From starting with his dad's campaign in the late 60s, he caught the bug, and there he was. So really, and you can tell the truth now, Senator Barrasso, what do they say? And just the fact that they still remember anyone remembers him after, he hasn't been in office, as was pointed out moments ago, since 1996. But everybody still knows his name. He's a legacy. What do they really say about him over there in the White House? What's the whisper? What's the rumor?
Well, he stayed on the national scene then because President Obama brought him back as part of that Simpson-Bowles commission to come up with a way of dealing with the national debt and the financial situation of the nation. And then ultimately Obama abandoned it. But it would have been a lot better if they had adopted what Al Simpson was talking about back then, because we'd be in a better course, I think, right now, had it been doing the sorts of things that they recommended 10 years ago or 12 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and he was a guy who also does, what you're able to do. I think Senator Lummis, Representative Hageman, when you come from the state, you're represented by from the state, elected by your state but you're doing business for the nation. You never forget that connection. You could find Al Simpson more likely in Park County than you could in Washington, D.C. He was a Wyoming guy. You're that way, and I think Wyoming people are that way, but he certainly never forgot Wyoming for a minute.
Never. And, because Cynthia and I and Harry at home every weekend, visiting the people, talking, traveling the state. And no, talk about even running into Al. This was 2 years ago. And we ran into each other in Shoshone at the,
my goodness,
the fast stop place. Everybody stops, gas is up. There are 5 guys drinking coffee who know the answers to solving world peace, the economy, everything. And there was Al, there was Ann, and they were heading one way. I was heading another way. Just, you run into everybody there. But you talk to people in Wyoming, and Al was always out and about, just as we are. And he did that. He's the one that really, I think, set the standard, which is if somebody from Wyoming comes to Washington and you're senator or representative, it's your job to see them. And if somebody is from Wyoming and they haven't met you, you got to make sure they know it's their fault because you're available. And we try to do that, which is why we have Wyoming Wednesday, patterned on the Al Simpson approach, why Cynthia or Harriet or I have been pulled out of meetings with state officials, international people, because there's a Cub Scout troop here from Wyoming, because that's the Al Simpson standard. People of Wyoming come first, always have, always will. And that's what Cynthia does, what I do, what Harriet does, just to make sure when anybody gets to Washington, it's the Simpson model, the Simpson standard. Let them know that's the most important thing in your life.
I think he would be happy to hear that, to hear it called that, and to hear that continues on. And, well, the good news is you can tell the President of the United States, if he ever needs a caucus or a fact-finding group, go to Shoshone, go to the gas station and find the 5 guys that are hanging around who can solve the world's problems.
And the 5 guys hopefully involve 2 women too, because they're going to get, you got the best ideas.
Yeah.
It's Simpson was always sitting there next to Reagan or next to Bush, whispering in their ear. So many pictures of that.
Man,
want to continue that legacy of Wyoming's role in our national activities, at the same time focused on the business of the people of Wyoming.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you making time on a moment's notice. And I think we're all going to reconnect here in Wyoming coming up. I don't know what any kind of memorial plans are, but I can imagine the state is going to be tipping toward Park County and Cody with the weight of how many people are probably wanting to be there to show their respects.
I'm absolutely sure that's the case, Jake, because Al was here in Washington to do the eulogy for George Bush when President George Herbert Walker, George the father.
Right.
So, he's beloved and loved, and the impact that he's had on Wyoming and the nation is going to continue to ripple through for generations.
For sure. News is just probably getting to the East Coast in this early morning hour that, Ellen K. Simpson has left us and left a hole, certainly, at 93 years old, but a good long run. We can only wish Senator Barrasso has a nice long run like that. And if you have any future plans, keep us in mind. Don't be a stranger. We got to get on this show again.
It was funny talking to him about 10 days ago in Cody, because I'm now the whip in the United States Senate, the number 2. And Al was the whip. He was the whip for Bob Dole as when he was in the leader, and then for Reagan and Bush. And I'm the whip in the Senate with John Thune, and for President Trump right now. And I was with President Trump yesterday, both in the cabinet room and in the Oval Office. And I told Al that the county commissioners had come back a couple of weeks ago and brought me actually from King's Saddlery in Sheridan a whip, a beautiful whip, and it's in a case. And I told Al about that. He said, "Oh, yep, I got one myself when I was a whip." Use it wisely, but make sure you get the job done for Wyoming.
Remember when we had you on earlier? I said we were going to go. Well, we should have acted faster. The
county commissioners, they were on the spot and they got it done.
I thought that post should come with a whip, and I'm sure Ellen
Yeah.
K. Simpson thought the same way. When people don't vote the way you want, you got to get to that whip. Oh,
Right.
well, that's neat to hear. I love it. Yeah, boy, you have the whip that you share. Yeah. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being on, Senator Barrasso. Get back to doing the work of the American people.
Thanks. Thanks, Jake. And and Cynthia and I are going to talk about Al on the floor of the Senate today.
Oh,
So
please do.
We can make sure you get that information. You can post it if you want.
Please do.
Let's on Cowboy State Daily.
Let's keep that alive. Keep that going. Good. That'll be great to hear. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.